Okay, so get this. Bitcoin is like seriously on fire right now. Like we're talking pushing towards 100 grand per Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
It's a market surge I don't think anyone saw coming, and the total crypto market cap, get this, soaring past $3 trillion. We haven't seen that level since 2021. And there's this super interesting Forbes article that we found, and they're calling what's happening right now perfect storm. They break down all these crazy forces that are behind this Bitcoin boom.
Yeah, they lay it out pretty clearly.
So, we had to dive in and unpack this for you.
Of course, it's huge.
Yeah, we're talking Trump back in the White House, Elon Musk like making waves in the government, and even the Fed is changing its stance on crypto.
Yeah, it's really an interesting convergence of events. And, the implications of this Bitcoin surge, I mean, they're huge, especially if you're thinking about getting into the crypto game.
For sure. So let's break down what's happening. So Bitcoin's price is like nearing $100,000, which is just a massive, massive leap.
It really is.
But it's not just Bitcoin, right? The entire crypto market is experiencing the surge.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And collectively, they hit that $3 trillion mark, which is, that's a big psychological barrier.
Definitely, big time. So I think what we're seeing is like sort of a chain reaction with several key factors all contributing to this surge. And honestly, I think one of the most significant is the return of Donald Trump to the White House.
Interesting. Yeah, it really seems like the markets are reacting to Trump like he's crypto's biggest fan.
Well, I mean, he has expressed support for Bitcoin in the past. He even went so far as to suggest the creation of a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve.
What does that even mean?
So basically, it would be the government holding Bitcoin as a national asset, similar to how, like, countries hold gold reserves.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's also this expectation that under his leadership, we might see a rollback of some of the stricter crypto regulations. And, that could definitely attract more investors.
So fewer rules, more people jumping into Bitcoin.
Yeah, potentially. And then, of course, we can't forget about the Elon Musk factor. He's now in a key government position focused on efficiency under the new Trump administration. And this is just creating, a lot of buzz, especially considering, his history with crypto and his, how do I say this, very vocal criticism of government spending.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back. I've heard about this whole debasement trade idea that Musk has been promoting. Can you explain how that ties into all of this?
Yeah, it's a complex idea, but it basically boils down to this. If investors believe that government actions, like, excessive spending, are going to lead to inflation and devalue the U.S. dollar, then they'll start looking for alternative assets that can hold their value. Think of it as a way to protect your wealth from a weakening dollar.
Okay, so in this scenario, Bitcoin is like the safe haven, the alternative to the, potentially shaky dollar.
Exactly. Bitcoin, with its limited supply, is seen by some as a hedge against inflation. Gold has traditionally served that purpose, and some believe Bitcoin is taking on a similar role in the digital age.
Interesting. And what about the Federal Reserve? They haven't exactly been crypto's biggest cheerleaders in the past.
True. You might remember Neil Kashkari. He's a prominent figure at the Fed. And he was very, how should I put it, outspoken in his criticism of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, even calling them, things like worthless and fraudulent.
Oh, yeah, I remember those headlines for sure. So what's changed?
Well, Kashkari's tone has shifted recently. He's now expressing a bit more openness to the potential of crypto, though he still seems, skeptical about its practical uses beyond speculation.
Yeah.
But this change in tone is definitely interesting considering, the overall shift in the political and economic landscape.
Yeah, big time. So is the Fed starting to see that they can't just ignore Bitcoin? Especially with Trump back in office and, figures like Musk pushing this debasement trade idea.
Well, it's possible. It's possible that they're recognizing the growing influence of crypto and feeling pressure to adapt.
Right. Interesting. Let's talk about Trump's team. It seems like he's surrounded himself with some, big Bitcoin believers.
Absolutely. His inner circle includes individuals like Howard Lutnick. He's the CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald. And not only is he heading Trump's transition team, but he's also rumored to be in the running for Treasury Secretary, which is obviously a powerful position with a lot of influence over financial policy. And Lutnick, notably, is a Bitcoin advocate.
Wow. So if people like Lutnick end up in these key positions, could that really change how the government approaches crypto?
It could indeed. Yeah, having prominent Bitcoin supporters in positions of power would likely create a more favorable environment for crypto, potentially leading to more supportive policies and regulations.
I see. And then there's Trump himself. It's not just talk with him. It seems like he has some very specific plans for Bitcoin.
That's right. Remember that idea of a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve that we talked about earlier? Well, that's one of the things he's proposed. And he's even gone a step further and suggested the possibility of using Bitcoin to try and tackle the U.S.'s massive national debt, which, currently stands at a staggering $35 trillion.
Whoa, using Bitcoin to pay off national debt, that sounds, incredibly ambitious, maybe even a little risky.
Yeah, it's definitely a bold and controversial proposition. It raises a lot of questions about the feasibility and the potential consequences of integrating Bitcoin into the financial system. On such a large scale.
Okay, wow. This is already a lot to take in. So we've got a pro-Bitcoin president, influential figures promoting this debasement trade concept, and even the Fed showing signs of softening its stance on crypto.
It's definitely a lot to process. And, we're just getting started. What I think is particularly fascinating is that all of this is taking place against a backdrop of increasing global economic uncertainty. There are a lot of people out there who are starting to question the stability of traditional financial systems.
And this is contributing to the interest in alternatives like Bitcoin.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's kind of amazing how quickly things have changed. It wasn't that long ago that Bitcoin was seen as something like totally fringe, almost like a novelty.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
now it's being discussed in the context of like national economic strategy.
Yeah, it's a remarkable shift. And I think a big part of it is that people are, they're looking for alternatives to the traditional financial system.
Hmm.
They see Bitcoin as something outside of the control of governments and central banks, which honestly appeals to a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
especially, in times of uncertainty.
Yeah, for sure. It's like a digital rebellion against the old ways of doing things. Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of that. But it's not just about ideology. It's also about practicality. Bitcoin has proven to be a pretty resilient asset. It's survived multiple crashes and come out stronger each time. And that kind of track record is attracting attention, even from, institutional investors who previously dismissed it as too volatile.
Interesting. So how do you think Trump's policies, assuming he, follow through on some of these ideas, how would that impact the crypto landscape?
Well, if he appoints regulators who are more open to crypto innovation, that could remove some of the barriers to entry for businesses and investors.
Okay, so things like clearer guidelines on taxation
Hmm.
and regulations that address concerns about, money laundering.
Exactly. Those are the kinds of things that can make the crypto market more attractive to institutional investors,
Hmm.
who are often hesitant to get involved because of the regulatory uncertainty.
Makes sense. But wouldn't that kind of defeat the purpose of Bitcoin as like a decentralized currency if it becomes more integrated with the traditional financial system?
Yeah, that's a valid point. And honestly, it's a debate that's happening within the crypto community itself. Some people believe that Bitcoin should remain a purely decentralized system, while others see the value in finding ways to coexist with the existing financial infrastructure. It's a complex issue with, no easy answers.
Yeah, for sure. And what about this idea of a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve? What are the potential like upsides and downsides of that?
Okay, so if the U.S. government were to start holding Bitcoin as a reserve asset, it would be a huge signal of legitimacy for the cryptocurrency. It could potentially lead to other countries doing the same, which, would further increase demand and drive up the price.
Hmm.
However, it also raises questions about government control. Some people worry that it could lead to more regulation and potentially even manipulation of the Bitcoin market.
Yeah, I see. It seems like a bit of a paradox, like Bitcoin gaining mainstream acceptance, but potentially at the cost of some of its decentralized nature?
Yeah, that's the dilemma. And it's something that we'll have to grapple with as Bitcoin continues to evolve and gain traction. But, let's not forget about the potential benefits. If Bitcoin can become a more widely used and accepted form of currency, it could offer a level of financial freedom and accessibility that's currently lacking in many parts of the world.
Right, especially in countries with like unstable currencies or limited access to traditional banking services.
Exactly. Bitcoin has the potential to empower individuals and communities in ways that were previously unimaginable. It could facilitate cross-border transactions,
Yep.
reduce remittance fees, and provide a safe haven for people living in countries with hyperinflation.
Wow, yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of, the potential upside of all this. But I think we also have to be realistic about the risks. Bitcoin is notoriously volatile. We've seen, huge price swings in the past, and there's no guarantee that it won't happen again.
Yeah, volatility is definitely a concern. And it's something that anyone considering investing in Bitcoin needs to be aware of. But it's important to remember that volatility can cut both ways. So while it can lead to significant losses, it can also create opportunities for significant gains.
Right. And what about security? We hear about like hacks and thefts in the crypto world all the time. Is that something that investors should be worried about?
Yes, security is paramount in the crypto space. There have been high-profile cases of exchanges being hacked and investors losing their funds. That being said, the technology itself is becoming increasingly secure, and there are measures that individuals can take to protect their investments, such as using hardware wallets and being cautious about phishing scams.
Okay, good to know. And then there's, of course, the environmental impact of Bitcoin mining, which is a big concern for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. The energy consumption required to mine Bitcoin is significant, and it's something that the crypto community needs to address. There are efforts underway to transition to more sustainable mining methods, such as, using renewable energy sources. But more needs to be done.
For sure. Okay, so we've talked about, the potential benefits of Bitcoin, but there are also significant risks and challenges that need to be addressed. What's the takeaway for someone who's listening to this and trying to figure out what it all means?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that we're in the early stages of a major financial transformation. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are challenging the status quo, and they're forcing us to rethink the way we view money and value. Whether Bitcoin ultimately succeeds in becoming a widely adopted global currency remains to be seen, but it's clear that it's having a profound impact on the financial landscape.
Totally. So what should people be watching for in the coming months and years? What are the key indicators that could signal whether Bitcoin is truly on the path to mainstream adoption?
I would say keep an eye on regulatory developments, especially in major economies like the United States. If we see governments becoming more supportive of crypto, that could be a sign that it's moving closer to the mainstream.
Hmm.
Also, watch for adoption by major institutions. If companies like Apple or Amazon start accepting Bitcoin as payment, that would be a game changer.
Yeah, that would be huge. It's almost like we're watching a financial revolution unfold in real time. It's exciting, it's a
Yeah,
little bit scary, and it's definitely something that everyone should be paying attention to.
yeah, I agree. We're living in a time of unprecedented change,
Hmm.
and the world of finance is undergoing a fundamental transformation. It's a fascinating journey, and we're just at the beginning.
It's crazy, right? Like we've been talking about all these economic and technological forces. It's easy to get lost in the numbers and the jargon, but for me, what's really striking is like the human element of all this.
Yeah, for sure.
At its core, this Bitcoin boom is about people searching for something, for like alternatives, more control over their financial lives.
It's a very human story. Bitcoin, at its essence, is about trust, or rather the lack of trust in traditional systems.
Mhm.
It's about individuals wanting to reclaim control of their finances and protect their wealth from what they perceive as risky or unstable institutions.
Right, yeah. And it's also just fascinating to see such a diverse group of people being drawn to Bitcoin. You have like the tech-savvy folks who are just excited by the innovation, the investors seeking profit, obviously, and then the idealists who see it as a path towards a more decentralized and equitable financial system.
Oh yeah, you see all types. And let's not forget those who are simply curious, the ones who are just, watching from the sidelines, trying to make sense of this rapidly changing landscape. I mean, this is a complex ecosystem,
Yeah.
constantly evolving with, passionate voices on all sides.
Absolutely. It's like we're witnessing a paradigm shift in how we think about money and value. I mean, for centuries, we've relied on these centralized authorities like
Mhm.
governments, central banks, to control the flow of money. But Bitcoin challenges that very notion. It presents a decentralized alternative.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fundamental shift in power dynamics. And it's generating both excitement and apprehension. Some people see it as the threat to the established order,
Hmm.
while others view it as an opportunity to create a more, inclusive and democratic financial system.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the most important thing for our listener is to understand that the future of finance is being written right now. And, it's not a spectator sport.
Right. You got to get involved.
Hmm.
It's a conversation that everyone needs to be a part of, whether
Sure.
you're, a seasoned investor or just starting to explore the world of crypto. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
I love that.